The new Lloydminster Nissan has moved into the Big Blue Building on Highway 16 West, formerly known as Border City RV. Shop in comfort with over 100 new and pre-owned vehicles all inside our giant showroom. This is the largest and the longest indoor sale in the history of the Border City. Sales and service all under one big roof. Come check out the massive savings in this massive building. The new Lloydminster Nissan, now in the Big Blue Building on Highway 16 West. The new Lloydminster Nissan. We won't sell you a car, we'll help you buy one.
Local people. Local news and events. Local sports. Local matters. For all things Lloydminster and area, this is Live with Kurt Price.
Hey, welcome to the Canadian Brewhouse for Talk About Tuesday, and not only is it Talk About Tuesday, the Oilers are playing tonight. They're in New York playing the Islanders. I'm Kurt Price with the new Lloydminster Nissan. At the new Lloydminster Nissan right now, we're celebrating Christmas with the 10 days of Christmas. Great deals. Today was free gas. I want to tell you tomorrow is, but I honestly don't know. We don't know from day to day what that deal is going to be.
Santa's helper, Jeremy, has not told anybody yet.
But you can come out and see us at the new Lloydminster Nissan. Guaranteed it's going to be something special. We've already had free tires for the life of your vehicle. We've had free oil changes. Today, free gas for a year. Extended warranty for free.
And I can tell you, breakaway for the Islanders. Oh, nice save.
I can tell you on Thursday
And Friday, Bucky the Elf will make an appearance.
All right, so you know you're going to get a great deal. Come see us under the roof at the new Lloydminster Nissan, where we have over 100 vehicles under the roof, and it's all indoors. And we're there at our temporary location, Highway 16 West, in the Big Blue Building. And if you don't want any payments because it's Christmas, defer the payments for 6 months. We'll take care of that for you as well. Sports show today here at the Canadian Brewhouse. We have got Reed Wilkins coming up, and another ex-Lloydminster broadcaster, Brandon Bosler, is going to join us. He is the one of the hosts of the Monday Nooner podcast, which deals with senior hockey in Saskatchewan. Yeah. We'll talk to him about that. Bucky himself has a big announcement coming up here on the show in just a few moments. Jeff Wojciechowski, assistant coach of the Lloydminster Bobcats, swings by, and we talk to Paul Waldo about the Saskatchewan Roughriders. With our four guests today, Bucky, and I was telling you this earlier, our four guests today are four people that are salt of the earth people that you would wish nothing but the best
Bosler,
for.
on the other hand, I occasionally... when Bosler used to work here, I'll tell you Bosler's story. When Bosler used to work here, we'd go out for lunch occasionally, and I would usually buy lunch. So Bosler this time said, you know what, I'll buy you lunch. So I jump into the truck with him, we get to wherever we're getting to, and then he goes, oh, geez, I forgot my wallet. And I looked at the ashtray, isn't that your wallet right there? Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's where it was.
You yourself have pulled that on me.
Oh, yeah, I got gator arms a few times.
A couple of times. Well, we've got the Oilers on here, and we're going to start talking Oilers. Let's check in with our buddy Reed Wilkins from 630 Ched and find out what he thinks about the Oilers goaltending situation. That sounds like a good place to start.
At Lloydminster and District Co-op, membership matters more. Because being part of a co-op means you're connected to something bigger than yourself. From long-held legacy by those who built our communities, to people you call family, friends, and neighbors. When you're a Lloyd Co-op member, you're an owner in a local business that prides itself on purpose alongside profit. You earn cash back, you help support causes that matter most, and you're building a better way of life for the next generation. Membership matters more.
Our guest is Reed Wilkins, the host of Inside Sports, and of course, he's your game day host as well for the Edmonton Oilers on 630 Ched. And welcome, Reed, and thanks for joining us. We know you're really busy at this time of year.
Like, where is Buck? Like, there he is. Like, why is it just your eyes and your forehead, Buck? You used to work in TV. Center up the shot.
Center of it, your horizon's off, right? I need a cushion here. This is just the camera. There we go.
One of the best stories ever Now, working in TV in Lloydminster, well, and people in larger markets have to do it now, is like you sometimes would have to shoot your own stuff. And Buck, you and I were both good enough that we could put stuff to air. But I remember, I think it was Court Smith. Remember, we had him as a practicum student for a while. He might have worked in news for a while. He was our practicum student, and he went and shot some basketball highlights. And he white balanced incorrectly. So just to sum up a white balance for the listener who doesn't know how a TV camera works, you have to tell the camera what kind of light you're in. And generally there was indoor and outdoor light. And he accidentally white balanced for outdoor light inside a gym. So everything came back like with this weird like yellow glow to it, whereas the indoor lights are usually more of a bluer tone. So we're shooting, he's going over these basketball highlights and he calls me over. He's like, Reed, I made a mistake. And I'm like, okay, well, you went and shot the game. I said, you'll pick a couple highlights and we'll just run a bit of it. And then he said something very funny. He goes, what if we wrote into your highlights that you said this school using the new belief that yellow light makes children grow? I thought that was really funny. I can't remember if we did that or not, but that was a good one. We used to have to bring back there were always, well, I wasn't a great shooter, but I could generally get what I wanted in the middle and keep it at that. But
isn't that the joy of working with interns, right?
Well, yeah, and then like sometimes with newer people, like I shot at Nate, so you knew how a camera worked. You know, you could get. I certainly made mistakes and stuff, but generally you could get everything to air. Or if you went to a hockey game and there were 9 goals and you missed one somehow, okay, you can work around it. But we had a guy. Do you remember Peter, Greg?
Yeah. Bit of an accent. Yeah, remember.
He grew up in Poland. And he'd never seen a baseball game. So we'd send him to shoot the Lloyd Twins or a midget AAA game or something. And he'd bring the highlights back and he's like all over the place. Like it's so finally after you piece them together. And as you know, Greg, sometimes when you're going over the highlights, the guy who shot them, his shift is over or he's out with somebody else and he's not going to be back till after the news starts. So you can't really, we didn't have, this is going to sound weird. Like 20 years ago, we didn't really have cell phones. I think they had those cell phones in their van that hardly ever worked. So
but you have a small window to put that stuff together, right?
Yeah. So one day I finally sat down with him. I said, Peter, what do you know about baseball? Nothing. I was like, no, I said like, no, but just tell me what you do know. Well, the guy on the hill, he's not on the same team as the guy with the stick, is he? I said, no, he's not. Because what he would do is there'd be a hit to, say there was a double into the gap in left field, and there's a runner on first. So if you got a single camera, you got to show where the ball landed, pan back and find the runner, and then get the runner scoring, and then the editor would cut out the part where you're moving the camera. Well, he would just follow the ball the entire time. So if it was like a walk-off hit or something, you just see the ball rolling by itself, the fielders leaving the field, and you don't see the guy actually scoring. Yeah.
Yeah, the ball was in focus, though. That was a great
the ball wasn't focused. So finally, I don't know if it was me or Buck, or maybe you were gone. I think you were still there, Buck. I said, okay, like, show where the ball goes, and then show the guys running, and we'll cut out the rest. So anyway.
Still knew more about baseball than
commercial break. I can remember cutting highlights during the commercial break before we went live at 11:25 or whatever. And actually just barely getting into the studio, putting your microphone on, and you're on camera,
Yeah. I like doing that late cast. I know I probably screwed up your life, Buck, because we kind of, I think I did it a little more, but we kind of split it. But I like doing that late cast because we got in, and we almost always had something local. We had Blazers, we had Junior B, the college started. So I think that really helped our coverage. And quite frankly, I think it helped me learn. I mean, I know you were already a vet there, but it helped. And I know I haven't wound up working in TV, but it helped me learn a lot. And I think losing that element of doing those late night highlights, I'm not even sure what they do now for sports there. But
well, we won't get into that. What they do for local right now, it's pretty well non-existent. It's a cable show, so yeah.
Right.
Did I say that out loud? Yeah. Okay.
Well, let's get
Where are we going with this?
let's get to the reason we're here, and that's the Edmonton Oilers. Our focus is on the Edmonton Oilers. Although I do want to ask you if you're confused as I am about the Calgary Flames as well. But when we look at the Oilers, Reed, does it all start with goaltending? Does it keep coming back? And how tired of you talking about the Oilers goaltending?
I don't think it all comes back to goaltending, but I think that goaltending is an issue. I think there are still a few issues with the team, even though I continue to believe that they're a very good team. I mean, I think now we're talking about them taking a step to actually win the cup as opposed to just get in the playoffs. I think Stuart Skinner is a good goalie. Like I really do. I think most people believe that. I know when he has a game like he did against Tampa Bay, he's under fire and stuff, but his previous 7 games were pretty good. I mean, maybe the game against Minnesota wasn't as great, but he made a couple saves in the third period when they needed. But so I don't view Skinner as the issue. The issue is that Campbell, quite frankly now, guys, I've always, first of all, I believed he was going to have a bounce back season. And then when he got sent down, I believed he was going to play in the NHL again. I can't say that with any certainty anymore because he got pulled in the minors on the weekend. I actually filled in for Stoff on Oilers Now yesterday, and Colin Chalk was on with me, and I asked him about Campbell. Colin coaches the Condors, and he said, there were some savable shots that didn't get saved. That's how he put it, so still having that problem in the minors, still having off nights. They need someone to spell off Skinner. And look, when they get to the playoffs, it might be Skinner and net, even if they go out and acquire somebody. I do think that he's that good that I don't think, unless they get somebody like Binnington, I don't think that the new guy displaces Skinner as the guy, but they need somebody who can play like almost half the games. I think even a third now in the NHL isn't enough for a good backup. I think it's at the point you're looking at 40-45% if you look at how a lot of teams are doing it. So goaltending, I guess I'll put it to you this way, Kurt, goaltending isn't, I don't think it's the major problem on the team, but it's not a strength most of the time. I think most nights you're hoping Skinner matches the other guy, and that then your offense overcomes what the other guy is able to do. And the Oilers have done that a lot of nights. I mean, they overcame Hellebuyck. They overcame Fleury when he was here. They weren't able to do it against Vasilevsky. So I just don't know how they're going to get somebody. I mean, I know there's a talk about Binnington. I mean, you probably, if you want them to take Campbell's contract, like what are you giving St. Louis? Broberg 2 first-round picks? And Campbell, maybe Holloway as well.
You think it would be 2 first-round picks?
If you take the contract, maybe?
Yeah, two first-round picks?
Maybe.
It's going to be, the price is going to be high, guys. Reed, going back to all the changes the Oilers have gone through, and you go Woody's out, Knobloch comes in, Coffey comes in, and you're around that team a lot. How much have that changed everything? Do you have a feeling the karma is a little different on this team? Of course, a few wins does that.
Yeah.
But more than anything, Coffey seems a lot more calmer than Dave, man. And you haven't heard the fans bitching about Nurse through all this. Nurse look pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the bigger change has been to how the defense is playing, and I think the overall strategy under Knobloch has been to take back the middle of the ice, which is interesting to me because I think they were doing that under Woodcroft, and I think things kind of changed. He really focused on changing the defensive system, and I think that got muddled a lot at the start of the year. And to get back to the goaltending, probably made the goalies look worse than they were as well, given some of the chances they were giving up. I think and I got to tell you guys, I had no idea how it was going to go with Coffey. I mean, to me, that was a complete wild card. That was out of left field. I was like, and obviously it played into the old boys club narrative that still hovers around this team. I mean, he's a special advisor to the owner, and now he's on the bench. I mean, the optics of that weren't great necessarily, but I think he's told them not to be afraid to make mistakes. I mean, he did an interview with Stoff last week and said no one made more mistakes than me, but they've also taken a lot of risk out of their game. When you get the puck, get it up to the guys who need it, like David and Draisaitl. But don't go trying to make hero plays and giving up goals that way. Is the vibe around the team different? That's a good question, Greg, because I think they liked Woody, I think by the end of Tippett's tenure, I got the sense he was tired of coaching and they were tired of being coached by him, even though it was only 2.5 years. I don't think it broke Tippett's heart to be fired at that point where he was in his life and having to have had coached through the pandemic and all that kind of stuff. But they seem genuinely surprised and a little down that Woody was fired. You're right. The vibe is better because the winning is going on. I think there might be a little more teaching in practice, but that also comes with a new coach. I mean, Woody did that when he started. I guess I was talking to somebody who was in for Hockey Night in Canada on Saturday, and Knobloch was going to be on After Hours. And this person was joking that they should ask Knobloch, so how's your first month of the 18 that you're going to get to coach the Oilers? Most coaches don't get to stick around that lot. But I do think Knobloch has a lot of potential. I do think he's very detailed. I think he's better tactically than he lets on. You guys have heard him interviewed. He's incredibly soft-spoken and incredibly humbled. I do think there were times Woody liked to remind you how much he knew about hockey. And I don't get that sense from Knobloch.
Yeah, they go out to the East Coast and it's a short trip. Usually they go up the East Coast and there's 3 or 4 games, a couple of days off. Now they're going out there playing tonight. They're on the ice right now. Yeah, this is kind of strange to have this kind of road trip just before Christmas.
Yeah, I can't remember in the time I've done it if they've been in New York right before Christmas. I know they've been on the West Coast, but yeah, this is they're knocking off. And they've had years they haven't even played New Jersey, the Islanders and Rangers all on the same trip. Sometimes it's been, they get New Jersey at a different time. And that, to me, what's strange is what's stranger to me than the trip, Buck, is that they don't play Saturday, the 23rd, which is the league's last day before they shut down for 3 days. Because I looked at the schedule, I was like, because I'm always thinking, what days do I get off at Christmas?
Yeah.
you worked as sports, Buck. You know what it's like.
Of course.
Yeah.
I got to map it out here.
When am I off?
Yeah,
when am I off?
Yeah.
When can I sleep in? So that was weird to not play on a Saturday when they would have been a Hockey Night in Canada team. And then they don't play on the 27th, and then they go to California. And a lot of time those games out of Christmas are a lot closer, right? You play Vancouver or Calgary, and that's actually the rule, right? If it's the first day back, it's got to be a short flight. That's why they've a lot of times played the so they don't play on the 27th. And I believe what they're doing on the 27th is they're going to fly to San Francisco and practice in San Jose once they get there, instead of practicing in Edmonton. And that allows the guys who might be spending Christmas, in Toronto or wherever, they don't have to come back to Edmonton. They can fly in the morning, Toronto to San Francisco, and then they're going to practice in the afternoon. So, yeah, I think one of my colleagues called it a 6-game road trip. And I said, it really isn't. It's actually 2 3-game road trips because there's the break in between where they can come home or go home for Christmas.
You know what I miss? I miss when the Canadians used to come out at Christmas time. They'd always
put
the Flames
yeah.
on New Year's Eve. Yeah. Speaking of the Flames, let's go to Calgary. Have you figured out this team yet? Because I can't figure out this team. I mean, I was shocked last night. They won. I was shocked they beat Tampa Bay. I was shocked, and after the Oilers lost to Tampa Bay, then I was shocked they beat Florida after the Oilers lost to Florida. Because I look at the Flames and the Oilers, and to me, it's 2 different class of teams. So I can't figure out the Calgary Flames because they'll have these win streaks and they'll have these lose streaks.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think that they are figured out. I know they've got some wins here. They can't score, and I don't think they will be able to score in crunch time. Now, if Markstrom plays well, which I think for him has been a lot of his tenure with Calgary, then they might be able to hang around. Somebody joked with me earlier in the season, the Flames' best goal scorer plays for the Devils, right? That's Toffoli. What's Huberdeau at? Like, he hardly ever gets a point, right? Like, I can't remember the stat I heard yesterday.
Not only that, sometimes you don't notice him.
Exactly. I think Lindholm is a great all-around player. Backlund. Well, I don't know, but I was thinking of Backlund, the captain, when I was talking about that. But I just think when it comes down to crunch time, they're not going to be able to score, and that's plagued them for a couple of years now, right? That who finishes the chances on that team. with Goudreau no longer there, and I know Columbus, whatever, and obviously with Tkachuk no longer there. So to me, Kurt, that is Calgary. They're not going to be able to finish chances. If they have a game where they got to get to 4, how often are they going to be able to do that if they give up 3?
So, Reed, what are your Christmas plans?
What are my Christmas plans? Just mostly family stuff, man. I don't do anything too exciting. The big family meal, I believe this year is actually going to be on New Year's Day, because it's going to be a combination of traditional Christmas and Ukrainian Christmas. And we used to have 2, but some people in my family, some aunts especially, have gotten a little older. One went into a nursing home about a year and a half ago, so that kind of limits what she can do. I have another aunt who lives in her own home who is 96. But we don't put she used to be the one that would cook almost everything. That doesn't we don't put that on her anymore. So I think Christmas Day will just be me and the dog, and a little bit with my parents. I think we're going to do some visiting for some family members probably on Saturday, and drop off some gifts and some baking and stuff like that.
Your favorite Christmas dessert and your favorite ever as a kid Christmas present.
Yeah, that's well, the second part's easy. The Christmas dessert, as you guys will remember, I'm limited because of my nut allergy. So mine's nothing too extravagant. My mom makes something called chocolate bark. So it's like a layer of like, what are they called? Like the Premium Plus style crackers. And you put like a chocolate sauce and a caramel sauce over top of them. You bake it so everything melts, and then you freeze it, and then you just snap it up, and it's like the saltiness and the sweetness. Because I kind of prefer salty stuff to sweetness. What the best the Christmas gift that comes to mind, I was probably 8 or 9, maybe 10, and my parents got me. It wasn't a full on like ghetto blaster, but it was like a speaker about this big, a tape deck, and the buttons on top. So this was the point I was starting to listen to a little bit of Duran Duran and Bryan Adams and Van Halen and stuff like that. So you could play your tapes in it, but it also had, you could record stuff. And I used to do like fake radio shows, and like I'd narrate science fiction stories. And I use this thing all the time. And it was quite small. Like it was easy to carry around, but the use I got out of that for probably 3 or 4 years would have been extensive. Yes.
Price, your favorite Christmas present. Price, your favorite Christmas present of all time.
Oh, I got a Montreal Canadiens jersey from my parents, so that would probably be when I was a kid.
Mine was a Dave Keon Toronto Maple Leafs hockey pants I wouldn't take off. Went to church wearing them, and then I came back and they disappeared. My mom hid them on me, so I wouldn't wear those hockey pants. Dave Keon Toronto Maple Leafs hockey pants. I can't stand the Leafs.
Reed, we really appreciate you giving us some of your time. And you know what's amazing about your aunt being 96 and still living at home is we're amazed. We're all amazed here that Bucky still lives at home. So have a great one, Reed, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Our thanks again to Reed Wilkins from 630 Ched. He's working tonight. By the way, we really appreciate it. BioClean Disaster Services, their commitment is to you and your family. And I would say to this community as well. Jody and Sharon have done a fantastic job of giving back to this community, and that certainly shows with their name on the swimming pool. They do a lot for the Lloydminster Sexual Assault Center and services, so they just give back, and they also care about this community and about the families in it, and that really shows in their work and what they do. So for fire, flood, and disaster relief, call a local company, call BioClean Disaster Services, where they care about you and they care about the community. 1-833-246-8326, and they're certainly going to take care of your home and your possessions, your business, but they really do care about you and your family, and that's the first priority. Well, it's been a long time coming. I've kind of teased this for a while now, but Greg Buchanan as not only the co-host of the Tuesday Night Sports Show, but tonight he becomes part of the content of the Tuesday Night Sports Show.
I don't know about
as well,
that, but yeah, okay.
Because Bucky's got a big announcement, which you've kind of hinted at on your own page, but to make it official.
Yeah, so after 19 years as a radio host, producer, vice president of the Canadian Professional Chuck Wagon Association, I have decided to move over to the World Professional Chuck Wagon Association in the midst of kind of doing the logistics with that and how it's going to look for me over the WPCA, but it's going to be a multi-year deal likely, and I'm excited. I'm also a little sad about walking away from the CPCA, but I guess that sometimes it's just like the drivers and the outriders that made that move from the CPCA to the WPCA. You want to try it, and you want to try something different, and the CPCA is like family to me, and not just the drivers, the outriders, the barn crews, but the fans and the sponsors and everybody that comes up and talks to me. And I know it's going to ruffle some feathers in this area for me going to the WPCA, because it's just, if you watch Corner Gas, what's that town they talk about?
Oh, yeah.
Willerton?
Yeah, Willerton.
Yeah, well, they do that with the WPCA, the CPCA. But honestly, Chuck Wagon guys are the salt of the earth, and I have an extended family in the wagon racing, and whether it be over there or over here, and I'm looking forward to it. First stop will be Grand Prairie for me for the Stompede. I've never been at the Stompede, so I'm looking forward to it. It's excited and also a little sad at the same time.
How come? Why?
A couple of things happen away from the track. A couple of things happen at the AGM that kind of, I don't want to say the writing was on the wall for me, but I felt, maybe this is the right time for me, and it's the right time. And I have a great. This all started 20 years ago, and the guy that started me into Chuck Wagon racing, I never knew about this guy before. Brian Hebson calls me out. I'm not even broadcasting anymore, and he says, "I need you to fill in to do Chuck Wagon racing on radio." And way before then, you remember Key 83, they used to do Chuck Wagons on radio, and I used to say to them, Jeff Murray was the guy doing it, I said, there is no way anybody's going to listen to Chuck Wagon racing on radio. It's such a visual sport. I was a pretty dumb guy back then. And
back then.
Yeah, back then. So 19 years later, and I'm walking away, and it's going to be a little different. It's definitely going to be new surroundings for me and everything. And there's a lot of people I want to thank, but there's a few that, when I came to Lloyd 34 years ago, and I got sat down in an office and said, we need to do this and this and that. You're going to do a rodeo show, and I know rodeo a little bit, not much, and you're going to do Chuck Wagon racing. This is a boy growing up in Regina, a block away from Wascana Park, and I said, okay, what is Chuck Wagon racing? Here's a video of him, watch. And I didn't have a clue. So I looked up a guy by the name of Buddy Bensmiller, hung out with Buddy, became like his fourth son, and Brian Labicane, and George Norman too, the late George Norman. So those guys, legends in the sport, pulled me in, and I try to basically be a sponge around them all the time, and I'm still learning everything. You never stop teaching yourself and learning about the sport. But so again, off to the WPCA, and thank you to all the great supporters of the CPCA. I thank you for all those kind words over the years, and don't spit on me because I'm going to the WPCA. What's the response been from both associations? Well, it's from the WPCA. Chuck Wagon racing is a real small world. Everybody knows each other, and great, great feedback from the WPCA guys and calling me up and welcoming me on board. CPCA, it's a bit of a shock, bit of a disappointment, but wish me all the best. And I'm no different than a Chuck Wagon driver, an outrider. You kind of wonder what a Grand Prairie's like, wonder what a Ponoka's like, and you wonder what even a Dawson Creek is like. And now I'm going to find out. And, I'm looking forward to working with a great guy by the name of Billy Melville. Looking forward to also, following with Arnie Jackson too. So, between the three of us, so we're going to have a lot of fun, and looking forward to it. Looking forward to going back Stampede? Yeah, back to the Calgary Stampede after a few years away, and I'm going to be on the Deerfoot, swearing underneath my breath, going, you know what, probably the Lloyd doesn't look too bad right now. We'll take a break and be right back to talk senior hockey. And there's something going on in our backyard you may not have heard about, and that's the St. Wolberg Eagles being kicked out of the Saskatchewan Hockey League. We'll talk about that with the host of the Monday Nooner podcast, Brandon Bosler, in just a moment.
I'm Brian Zinchuk of PipelineOnline.ca. I used to be a pipeliner, and I've spent the last 15 years reporting on energy in Saskatchewan. PipelineOnline.ca provides comprehensive coverage of light oil, heavy oil, lithium, helium, power production including coal, wind, solar, geothermal, natural gas, and nuclear. There's a lot happening in Saskatchewan's energy sector, and Pipeline Online is there for all of it. No one else comes even close.
Our guest is a familiar face. Not only have we had Reed Wilkins on today, a former broadcaster in Lloydminster, but another former broadcaster in Lloydminster. Brandon Bosler joins us, co-host of the Monday Nooner podcast. We're going to talk senior hockey. Brandon, how you doing? How's it going, buddy?
I'm doing good, you guys. It's been a while. It's good to get the band back together in a sense. It's been 10 years or so since we all worked together. 10 years.
Somebody told me you were in town last Christmas, was it? Or 6 months ago or something? That you come to Lloyd quite often, actually.
Yeah, my sister lives there actually with her husband and kids. She lives right in Lloyd, so I get there the odd time. I live in Regina now, though, so it's a bit of, as Bucky can attest to, it's a bit of a hike, so I don't make it there often, but yeah, I'm in the area a decent amount for sure.
So you go to all the Rider games
You and I
now,
did the
or
sports
what?
show for how long?
I go to most of the Rider games, Pricey and Bucky. You and I did the sports show. I think we started it in 2013, maybe. I was in Lloyd from 2012 to 2015.
Yeah, it was a Monday night at Boston Pizza. The funny thing about it, we couldn't do it Monday nights anymore. So we had 3 different meetings with executive from Stingray, then come up with a new name. And after 3 meetings, we came up with a Tuesday night sports show.
Hey, I was one of those executives. I was one of those guys you were having meetings with. So, hey, let's not be too hard on.
Glad to see you guys are still doing it, though, in a roundabout way.
As Reed says, the statute of limitations to complain about that company is now run out. We can say whatever we want, but let's talk about what we came here to talk about, and that is senior hockey. And Brandon, your Monday Nooner podcast is mostly about senior hockey, and you're telling me before we went live here tonight that you're shocked at just how popular it is.
Yeah, like honestly, I'd said it doesn't matter who we get for big names, maybe short of Wayne Gretzky or Sidney Crosby or something like that. Get some pretty big names, but our senior hockey season preview show is typically our most downloaded for the season, and then every week we do a senior hockey top 10, which is by far our most listened to podcast. But what people don't realize in Saskatchewan, there's 13 senior leagues, 111 teams. So you think about 111 teams, each one's got 20 or so players and staff. So that's a couple thousand people directly involved, plus all the small communities and small towns that support these teams. There's literally thousands of people who are interested in, tens of thousands of people who are interested in the province of Saskatchewan. So it's kind of a niche market, but we've found one that people seem to enjoy. So,
well, here we don't even have a senior team anymore. So it's I don't know how many people really keep.
We don't. Like you have so many Lloyd kids that are playing elsewhere. Border Kings, of course, and more than anything, it's not the Border Kings that kind of took a hiatus. It's more the future of the Allen Cup and where the Allen Cup is right now. There is no Allen Cup. Honestly, there is. It's really sad, actually.
Well, I do think they are having one. I don't know if it's ever going to be the same. There is an event this April in Hamilton, actually.
Yeah, it's just a tournament. You enter a team. Hey, you want to go and play for the Allen Cup? Yeah, let's put a team together. And back in the day, you had provinces playing against each other for the right to go to the Allen Cup. And I think we wanted it 01, the Border Kings did, wanted them to go 07. And along that way, you had the Horse Lakes, you had the Minnesticquins, you had all these different teams that just paid and paid and paid and paid. And it's nice to see that it kind of caught up with everybody.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned Pricey being in Lloyd there. I do have a lot of buddies still in Lloyd, a lot of my close friends that I was friends with there. A lot of them still do play. Lashburn, I know Kit Scotty's got a team, Wainwright. Paradise Hill. So there's definitely a few senior hockey powerhouses around Lloyd. And I think a lot of the guys do commute from Lloyd for sure.
Well, I see it every once in a while, that's for sure. That I follow the Hillmont Hawks, so keep up to date with them on Twitter.
That must be a rec team because it's the Hillmont Hitmen. But
maybe it is the Hitmen. Yeah, I can't remember. Yeah, maybe it
close.
Is I got to start paying more attention.
For you, Brandon, you grew up in a small town, and I think that's one people when you go to Regina. And I grew up in Regina. I didn't really know what senior hockey was, but you go to a small town, senior hockey, and you came from a small town too, Pricey. It's a gathering place for everybody on a weekend. You get together with your neighbor down the road, and you're sitting there having a coffee, a burger, fries, and you're watching senior hockey. Some teams go to that next level with senior hockey teams in Saskatchewan, but some just, it's a gathering point. And that's great to see that senior hockey now with your podcast getting a new lifeline.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, we do a top 10 show, so you can imagine our DMs after we've got 112 teams, and you try and rank the top 10. Well, you got over 100 teams that are pissed off and think they should be in the top 10. So yeah, it's fun banter. It keeps the communities involved, and yeah.
We won't get into St. Walburg, but there's a lot of controversy in St. Walburg. I ran P Hill for a year in that league, and I'd be open. I cheated every which way I could. I paid players. I put players in houses they didn't even live at. And we brought players from everywhere, paid a huge payroll. All they wanted me to do that year in Paradise Hills, beat St. Walburg. We beat St. Walburg in the league final. And I think St. Walburg ever since then doesn't like me too much. And then on top of that, they've upped their game so much. And to say they don't pay and this team doesn't pay, oh, come on. We all know what's going on.
I did want to say, I don't know if you've talked to anybody in St. Walburg. I did hear they're putting a team in provincials, which obviously they're not playing in a league for the rest of the year, but I did hear they're looking to regroup and they've got a team in Sask provincial. So it'll be interesting to see. They'll have a little chip on their shoulder, I'm sure.
Why can't we talk about St. Walburg?
I got a phone call before we did this show, and I've been trying to get Dwayne Larry. Everybody knows him simply as Weasel back in Walburg. Weasel and I got into it when I was running Paradise Hill, but now we're friends. We kissed and made up, as they say in senior hockey. But
so I thought I was coming on here to talk about Walburg.
I thought you were coming on here to talk about Walburg too. So it shocks me when Bucky says we're not going to talk about Walburg because I'm not part of this. I'm not part of this. We're not talking about Walburg. Why can't we talk about Walburg?
Your story about St. Walburg, what has happened in Walburg? And if everybody doesn't know, and if you're not covering North Sask River, you're not watching senior hockey, Walburg's been suspended. Their whole team has been suspended. This has been a team that's been a powerhouse in North Sask River. And now they can't even ice a team because they broke a few rules.
Yeah, I thought maybe you got the same cease and desist our podcast did from St. Walburg, but
did you really? Did you? What kind of or what?
Well, there was talk on one of the websites, and they had a change.org that there was going to be legal action because we stoked the fire, I think is the term they used. But I would say anything we said, I mean, people have known or speculated for years. And if you're not abiding by rules, if a podcast on senior hockey is going to take you down, like maybe you need to get your ducks in a row. But so here's the backstory. They play in the Sask Alta Hockey League, which is around your neck of the woods. Their oldest senior league in the province, by the way, been around for forever. They have a rule: you cannot compensate players at all. And anybody that is in a lot of the neighboring leagues, there are guys who we call it on our show, we call it sticks and gas instead of just to keep things above board. And instead of a cash in an envelope, we say they pay them in sticks and gas, pay for their fuel and some hockey sticks. So this league allows no compensation at all. And I think what really got other teams kind of thinking is, for example, the Drzinski brothers. You guys probably know them. They're from that area, David and Darian. They played in Kindersley for quite a few years. This year, they moved to St. Walburg from Kindersley, and everyone would probably on the same page. They're getting paid in Kindersley, so why would they go to St. Walburg if they weren't receiving what they were in Kindersley? So that kind of got a lot of people curious on things. I know there's some other guys from up north, closer to Meadow Lake, that are making the drive to St. Walburg. It's just they're bringing in guys from everywhere. They've had guys that are from BC originally that are going to St. Walburg. So something is drawing these guys to St. Walburg. The rest of the league, I guess, made the assumption that they were paying these players, which is not allowed. So they had a league vote. It was overwhelmingly in favor of removing St. Walburg from the league. We hadn't talked about this at all on our show before this vote. So for them to say that we stoked the fire is crazy because we didn't even know about this meeting until after it happened. So they appealed it. They went back to a vote. The decision was upheld. I do believe it was a little bit closer the second time around. And I will say I do feel bad for the community of St. Walburg. It is a crappy thing to lose your team. It's a big part of their community, a big part of the rink on weekends, like Bucky mentioned. But That's the long and the short of it. The other teams felt they weren't abiding by the rules and made this decision. I have heard that Wahlberg has already talked maybe to the Sask West, which is a league with Edam and Wilkie and Kindersley, and maybe looking at going in a different league that does allow this going forward.
Yeah, but honestly, St. Walburg wasn't the only team. Like I gotta openly tell you, on my payroll for Paradise Hill was, and it was probably one season I paid more players, and that one season I did 12 years at the Border Kings. Honestly, I hate to fly here, but my internet is really breaking up, guys. Like Brandon, great seeing you, and continue along with it.
Okay. So
thanks, Bucky.
I don't know if Bucky just has to go because he's a customer or because he got nervous about St. Walburg. I'm not 100% sure, but I will say this, because Bucky says that everybody's paying players, right? This is what he's saying. Everybody pays players. What was St. Walburg's record like? Like, our teams look at these guys and they're really good. Is that like, what if they were bad? Would they still be kicked out if they were a bad hockey team?
Probably not. And to your question, they weren't far and away winning every game by a huge amount. Lashburn won the league last year. I think St. Walburg lost out in the semifinals. Yeah,
because I'm wondering if it's hurt feelings.
You know what? Like, I feel like people have always kind of had a hate on for St. Walburg. Like, even from when I grew up, I remember like nobody really liked St. Walburg. So maybe there is a little bit of that bias. But from other people I've talked to around that league, they said nobody else is doing what they're doing. And it's an unfair advantage. That's what other teams are saying in the league, that we're all following this rule. Our guys are playing here because they want to play here. This isn't like some of these leagues around Saskatoon and Regina. They're pulling guys from the city for pretty substantial sticks and gas. But from what everyone else in the league says, this isn't happening other than in St. Walburg. And the one weird thing about it is I don't think there's no way to really prove it short of, like, I don't think anybody has any physical proof that they saw a guy receive an envelope of cash or anything. It's just kind of.
Yeah. They're saying they're doing it to extreme is what they're being accused of, doing it to extreme.
Yeah. Well, they say the league, you can't do it at all. And
right.
Apparently nobody. Yeah. So.
And apparently nobody else is.
Apparently nobody else is.
Okay. So your podcast though has taken some abuse because of this.
Yeah, there's been a few things for sure. I mean, like I had mentioned earlier, when there's this many senior hockey teams and you're ranking them and stuff like that, you're always going to have people who don't agree. So that's not anything we're not used to per se, but yeah, there's been a little bit of flack that we stoked the fire. Yeah, I don't know.
So what happens next year? Or is it too early to start looking ahead to that?
For St. Walburg?
Yeah.
Well, they would be allowed back in the Sask Alta Hockey League that they're currently in at the end of the season. I did reach out and get clarification on that, as long as they were abiding by these rules. But I did hear that they were thinking about going in that other league with the Edams and the Wilkies and Hafford and some other communities like that, which is probably a slightly better league as well with better players. So maybe it'd be a better fit for them anyway. But
so this St. Walburg thing, for me, that teams have had a hate on for St. Walburg for a while, this is new to me. Like, I didn't know this, because I like, where I grew up is the same area where you grew up, Bigger, Wilkie, that kind of area, Asquith, and Rosetown was always the team we hated, like,
yeah,
I didn't realize that St. Walburg was kind of that, because they've treated me like nothing but gold in St. Walburg. And
I don't think there's anything wrong with it's nothing about the people there. It's a good community. I would say they've had a lot of success. I mean, nobody hates the team who's 0-16, right? Like, a lot of it probably does have to do with the success they've had, right? It's like,
and what's wrong with having that passion, right? Like, to me, it's what's wrong with having that passion and wanting it so bad that if you ain't
cheating, you ain't trying, I guess. But it's unfortunate for the community. Like, I do feel bad for their rink. It probably isn't that busy. It was probably pretty important to have those games and the community get together. And yeah, it's an unfortunate situation, but it is what it is for this year, I guess.
So without St. Walburg, who's the best team in that league now?
Well, last weekend, Wainwright, the Rustlers were 10-0, and they went into Paradise Hill and lost. So Paradise Hill is 7-2, I believe, but they just knocked off the undefeated team. So I know a few people out in P Hill, and they've been putting word in. We had Wainwright was ranked number 10 in the province last week. So this weekend, when we do the top 10, you might see a Paradise Hill spotting in the senior hockey top 10. They think they deserve it anyway. So.
Well, Brandon, we're going to have you back on again. Like we really are going to have you back on again where we can talk more about senior hockey, especially closer to the playoffs. Because actually, although it feels like spring weather today, it's not actually spring yet. And then we got to have you back on to talk Oilers too, because I miss talking hockey with you at the radio station too. So appreciate this. Have a good Christmas. But before we let you go, we do have one question we're asking everybody. Well, it's two questions. What's your plans for Christmas this year, and favorite Christmas present you got as a child?
Not much planned for Christmas, honestly. Just quiet, get together with my family back at the family farm. So that'll be good.
You're not married yet?
I'm not. No.
Is there a Mrs. Is there a potential Mrs. Bosler?
I'll say what I say when I talk about senior hockey, and I don't have confirmation. Allegedly.
Okay. And favorite Christmas present?
I'm trying to think. I remember one year my brother and I got goalie pads and glove and blocker to share. He ended up wearing them most of the time, but I was just excited to have somebody to shoot pucks at. So yeah, that's probably it. And I was going to say, before I come back on for Christmas, you should get Bucky a new mic and maybe a stronger internet connection. Some guys never change, hey?
No, never. Thanks, Brandon. Appreciate it. Have a good Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Thanks.
Okay, we can ask him now. Did you leave because of the St. Walburg Mafia? You got a call from the St. Walburg Mafia? Or did you have a customer?
Yeah, I did have a customer. Did have to drive this fellow to town where, by the way, Border City RV, about 15 minutes down the highway, Highway 16, new location for the new Lloydminster Nissan. But yeah, I had to drive somebody to town. No, I'm not scared. Kind of. But not really scared of the St. Walburg Mafia, which is pretty well made up of all Larrys.
We would love to have, we're extending an invitation for them to come on my show right now. They want to clear things up and give their side of it. They're welcome to.
We'll buy you some wings too.
They're welcome to come on the show. Yeah. Absolutely. And But
the thing is, with the Payne players, I know that's where they got into trouble. But
remember when Brent Sutter got mad at you?
Oh yeah, like every team out there in senior hockey, in one way or another, pays for these. Not all of them, And I can say that the Border Kings never paid players. We took care of them flights and everything like that, but we never paid players, and we won 2 Allen Cups. My philosophy to the Border Kings back in the day was just get out of the way. The boys are good enough. And we had such a core of players. How can I pay Kurt Price coming in from Rosetown, but Kurt Price coming in to play Border Kings, and Merv Mann, one of the best defensemen in senior hockey in Canada, and never got one red dime from the Border Kings? How does that go over in the room, right? So no.
Didn't even get a new pair of shoulder pads for the deal. Superior Water is proud to provide you with the purest drinking water possible. I drink it because I like the taste, and I believe it is superior to anyone else's water. I think it's the best water available in Lloydminster at just $3 a jug. You get a nice, clear, consistent taste as well. And they have ice for that Crown Royal, which I picked up for the Christmas season at just $2 a bag. And if you're
Crown Royal comes in a bag?
No,
the ice.
Bag for the ice. No. Well, actually, Crown does come in a bag.
Oh, yeah, the purple one.
The purple bag.
Not $2 a bag, though.
No, not $2. You got to pay a little bit more.
Oh, my God. If it was $2 a bag, I might start drinking
again. A little bit more than the $3 they charge for water jugs at Superior Water. 2 locations, Sheepskin Loft on 57th Avenue. They're right next door to Sheepskin Loft. And also, of course, their coin-operated location on Highway 17 South beside 7-Eleven. We'll take a break. And when we come back, Jeff Woy-Witka and the Lloydminster Bobcats are on a roll. That's next.
It's more than just taxes at LNA CPA. Assurance, accounting, retirement planning, estate planning, business consulting, financial consulting, farm program support, and bookkeeping. But yes, there is always taxes. The team at LNA CPA is committed to helping you achieve your best results and will be there to assist you every step of the way. LNA CPA, with offices in Provost, Vermilion, and Lloydminster.
Jeff Wojtke is assistant coach with the Lloydminster Bobcats, and he's also a development coach, and it is great for him to be able to join us here. Thanks for giving us some of your time, Jeff.
You bet. Thanks for having me on.
Well, just before I pressed record and we started chat, I was saying the break couldn't come at a worse time for the Bobcats. I mean, when you're feeling this good, you guys are on a bit of a heater here. You really don't want to stop, do you?
Well, you know what? It was good in a sense that, yeah, absolutely. We don't want to stop. We want to continue to keep rolling and keep the pace up and keep the feel good vibe in there. But obviously, I think for guys going home at Christmas time, it makes them feel good too. They can go relax and enjoy and not stress about a whole bunch of, what's going on with the team or bad things creeping in or bad thoughts, whatever. But, the guys are doing good. They're battling, they're competing, and it's been a really good group to work with. And we've had our lumps in the road along the way this year, but we've always responded and rose to the challenge, and we've set ourselves up really good here. So hopefully the kids can go home and enjoy, a good Christmas and a good meal, and then be back to, ready to go on the 29th.
You bring up a good point there. I want to ask about when you played and also as you're coaching. Is that something you use as a tool to say, hey guys, we're going on a break here. Let's feel good about our break. When we leave here tonight, let's go home and be looking forward to the next game, not looking back at what went wrong in the last one. Let's feel good about ourselves. Is that a tool that coaches use and that you use yourself?
Yeah, I think so. I think even if you're going into a weekend games or before any holiday games, I think your last game or whatever it is your most important one. Obviously, the ones leading up to it are really important too, but that's the one you got to sit on for the break or that time or the week or heading into the week of practice. You always want to feel good and feel good about what you've done in that time. So I'm a big believer in that, as far as guys getting away, relaxing, clearing their mind, shutting their brain off, and just kind of, enjoying the other side of the game, which, obviously families and being away with your friends and getting just a breath of fresh air, I think. And they do a lot of work for us. These kids have put in a lot of time in the community and on the ice for practices, and they've developed into good young men, and they're really nice, and it's been really fun to be around them. They're a really good group of kids that come to work every day.
So, not that scoring's been a problem for the Bobcats all year. I mean, there's been the odd game, of course. We all run into a hot goaltender once in a while. But the scoring has been out, like you guys, lights out here in the last 3 games here. What's gone on to kind of light the lamp at the other end?
Well, I think guys are, obviously they're competing. We do have some high-end skill. Our younger guys and guys with less experience are starting to find roles and what their role is going to look like on a team moving forward. But I think, we've had, sickness, suspensions. Stanky had just got back, and he's been a real big piece. Arguably, he's on our top centerman, with Cabana, him, and Ishan. We got really good depth down the middle now, and he just adds another element even to our, our power play depth, where, it's not one unit now, it's 2 units that can do some damage on the power play, and it gives guys, we're not overextending guys as far as their minutes. We can more manage the minutes, and guys are, when they're out there, they're fresher and they're moving. And I think just, adding him, Fondlet's been out for a few as far as, suspensions and all that, but I think just getting a healthy lineup and depth wise, like we're a really good hockey team, and we have that, and we've hung in there without that, and we've solidified it. But it was just nice to have that full lineup that you can use the whole bench and get everybody involved, and everybody's a part of it.
Now, to the opposite end of that, keeping the puck out of your net has been a bit of a problem during the year, but again, not in these last 3 games. Have you guys changed something there, or is like goalies get hot, as I mentioned?
Yeah, obviously, I think anytime in the league, and no matter what league you're in, you need really good goaltending, and I think with Sebastian and Jack there, obviously Jack's done a really good job here leading up till Christmas, posting a couple shutouts and really, feeling confident in there, and you can just tell he has a little bit more swagger to his game right now. He's confident. He's very detailed, very technical goalie, and he's always been a goalie that has had it. And I know Shelley, our goalie coach, really works with them and with him and Reeser. But you can just see he's found another level in his game. He's under control in the net. He's given our team, another in that being said, he's given our team confidence because, whether it's our penalty kill or our 5-on-5 play, you still need your goaltender to bail you out of spots. And when you make maybe there's some high risk plays offensively that we're trying to make or defensively or on a kill for that matter, you're always going to give up something on a kill. But when your goalie can shut the door and just, kind of give you that sense of just like being there for you, it just helps everything and helps your confidence all around in a team game.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned penalty kill. It's had to be good. You guys take a few penalties. Like let's not beat around the bush here. What's the theory behind the penalty kill?
Well, right now, I think we just obviously early on, I thought it was we had to make some changes. We weren't good enough. We were allowing zone entry. I think zone entry is a big thing as far as, if you can pressure teams, whether it's on their breakout or disrupt their sets of getting into the zone, you can make life really miserable on them. And we've adjusted that. We've had to, do that as far as, just wanting to get better because in order to, you can't always just be stuck on one thing. Now, sometimes you have to tweak things. And then in zone, we've just we like to pressure. We've done a few adjustments with our D, and then where our triggers are as far as how far we're pushing down. And then obviously just having really good sticks and taking away middle ice was another big thing. So our kill's been really good. I know it was probably at a point there, it was about second last in the league, but now we've got up to about, 79, 80%. So it's had to be really good because of how many penalties we do take, which has been a concern because it is, wear and tear in your team. But that being said, you need to be structured in that area for sure.
How do you like working with Brad? You got a new head coach this year. How's your chemistry?
Well, obviously Brad's a good guy. He's a hard worker. We're on the same page on a lot of things. I think just for the two of us, it's for what we want to do on the development side and sometimes we're running 2-a-days where it's a defenseman or forwards on the ice at 10 in the morning where I take them on and then there's a practice. I think we just have a good workload as far as what we want in a daily outlook. He's taught me a lot on things. And I think just, us working together is good. We pick each other's brain. We ask each other for information and it's just a good duo. And it's been fun, obviously getting to know him and it's been a good change for sure.
And how about just a comment about Nigel and he's a Canadian champion now.
Yeah.
And how much that means to the organization that your general manager won the West, using the West won that tournament.
Well, obviously I owe a lot to Nigel because he's the guy that brought me in and last year about this time actually last year and was looking for a little bit of help and obviously a guy that I have a really good relationship. We can talk at any time and he's helped me a lot and he's a hardworking guy that demands a lot, but in a community like Lloyd, you need that, right? And obviously I've been writing him a few messages there when he was gone and obviously they ended up winning the tournament. They had it's not how you start, it's how you finish, but obviously he was really engaged in that and he wanted to do well. And he's always a guy that, he makes sure he's very detailed in that area. So it's no surprise that he ended up, and their team ended up winning that tournament. And you know what? Good for him because in hockey, you only get so many opportunities and those are the opportunities that make name for yourselves. Obviously he's made a really good name in Lloyd and around the AJ, but now nationally he's done a really good job there and he's taken it serious and we're really proud of him and it looks good on the Bobcats too.
So I mentioned the players and having their Christmas break. I don't see a Christmas tree behind you. Are you a Christmas guy?
No, it's there. It's just little.
Okay. All right. Okay. We've been asking.
No, I enjoy Christmas a lot. I'm actually out at the parents' farm right now. So I just decided to come out here and get away a little bit. So, we usually have Christmas out here and it's nice being out here. I live in the town of Vermilion, which is nice. I got really good neighbors there and it's been a really good, obviously the drive and everything. It's you're on the road a lot with the coaching, but I enjoy it out here.
We've been asking everybody your Christmas plans and also favorite Christmas present that you ever got.
Oh, okay. Well, the plans are just going to be, mostly just at the, hanging out with the family here around Vermilion and with my brothers and their families and my mom and dad. So it's been really good. You know what? My favorite Christmas present was when I got my first set of, goalie pads and glove and blocker and a hockey stick so we can go in the outdoor rink when I don't know, I must have been about 8 or 9, but our cousin ended up giving us to them. So we always wanted goalie equipment and we always loved playing on the outdoor rink. So anytime we got, you always wanted to play goal. It was just one of those things on outdoor rink. You always wanted to play goal. Even though I was a defenseman, it was just cool to get those things. And it was always great memories.
It is strange hearing Jeff Wojcicka say, my goalie pads. Yeah.
Exactly. You always want to block shots.
Jeff, thanks so much for this, and have a Merry Christmas.
You too. Thanks, Kurt.
Another one of those great guys in hockey, Jeff Wojcicka. There's nothing but the best for this guy this holiday season.
It was amazing.
Salt of the earth.
Yeah, amazing watching him grow from the WHL onto the NHL, and had a lot of stops, a lot of different teams, and now what he's doing with the Bobcats, and he's looking at being that a coach at another level eventually. I know he shared that with me, and he knows what he wants to do, and it's just a matter of getting there.
Yeah, absolutely. We're at the Canadian Brewhouse tonight, where it's Taco Bout Tuesday, $3.49 tacos. We're into the second intermission of the Oilers and the Islanders, but the Oilers got some work to do. They're down 3-1 after giving off a shorty. And we also want to remind you that we've got New Year's coming up here at the Canadian Brewhouse. And for New Year's this year, it's once again free wings for a year for everybody that comes in for the big New Year's party. And I know it's one of your favorite nights, Tomahawk Steak Nights, coming up as well.
Coming up in January, always great. If you like the 40 ounce, you'll love the tomahawk. It comes right off the bone. It's delicious.
That's a great price too. Yeah, $49.99. That is a terrific.
It's a big
price.
honk of meat. Yeah.
Try to buy that at a grocery store and see what you pay without somebody cooking it for you.
Yeah, there goes my paycheck.
Yeah, Canadian Brewhouse, $49.99. Get it today. All right, the other big news is the Saskatchewan Roughriders have hired a coach. They've hired an offensive coordinator. We're going to find out all about what Paul Waldo, who I would say has become our go-to guy in Regina, thinks about how quickly the Riders can get this thing turned around. That's coming up next here at the Canadian Brewhouse.
At Jason Arden Associates Cooperators, we're proud to be a top-rated local insurance company that offers flexible solutions and expert advice for all your insurance and investment needs. We'll work with you to tailor your insurance specific to your needs, and we offer investment advice that always puts you first. At Cooperators, one of our core values is to support the communities we live in. When you support Jason Arden Associates Cooperators, you are supporting local nonprofits and initiatives. Since 2020, we have donated $60,000 to local nonprofits, youth sponsorships, and various special projects. When was the last time your insurance company did that?
How can you help support the oil and gas industry and jobs in Western Canada? The answer is closer than you think. Sell your scrap metals to PWM Steel. PWM sells scrap iron to Evraz, located in Regina. Evraz's #1 customer is the energy sector, building pipes and plates for the oil and gas industry. PWM Steel is your locally owned metal recycler and steel service center in the area. Plus, they're a strong supporter of the community. PWM Steel, your top steel supplier for Alberta and Saskatchewan for 40 years.
At Diamond 7 Meats, we work with local farm families to provide a high-quality product and a great selection for you. Try our mouth-watering smokies, pulled pork, roast beef, and more, made pure and natural with no additives or fillers. We offer custom processing, and our experienced team works for you to provide a selection of sausage, burgers, and jerkies made to your specifications. Take your grilling to the next level with a Yoder smoker. Complete the grilling experience with a Canadian-made, award-winning line of House of Q barbecue sauces. We're locally owned and operated, and we look forward to seeing you today.
Paul Waldo is our guest, and Paul is a frequent guest on the Tuesday Night Sports Show, and it is great to talk to him again. 3-time Grey Cup champion. And Paul, let's start with thanks for doing this, by the way, and Merry Christmas.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure, and Merry Christmas to you guys.
Let's talk about the new coach. That's the big news in Riderville is Corey Mace. But the other news may be how well he's being received from the fan base, a fan base that was very upset at the end of the season. They've come around. They see light at the tunnel. What do you think of the hire, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great hire. I think, and not to take anything away from Coach Craig Dickinson, because he's a good man, he's a great coach. But I think with Corey here, you get you get a jolt of energy. I think you get a rejuvenation in a young mind. A former athlete that played not that long ago and that was victorious. Both as a player and as a coach. So I think you're kind of getting the perfect mix. In comparison to kind of what has been here the past few years, and it's shown even in some of the staff members that he's brought over.
You like the youth. You like this youth movement in coaches.
I love it. I think, obviously just us talking on off air there, you look at it, whether it's, the NFL or the CFL, you're starting to see a lot of young coaches become head coaches, right? Like Sean McDermott, Mike McDaniels, and I think those guys in particular, have a great way of resonating and relating to a lot of players, as they're much closer in age as opposed to having a coach that's twice your age and had never really gone through the systems and the rankings that you would have essentially at the same time. So yeah, I think it's proven that you can have success, and like I said, the young coaches are going to be able to resonate and bring a sense of energy and a rejuvenation that maybe some older coaches might not.
They got another young coach coming in as an OC. We got Mark Mueller coming in as an OC. Paul, should Rider fans be a little bit worried, though, that it didn't work out for him as an OC in Calgary as a play caller, and Dave Dickinson took over about halfway through the season? Should we be concerned, or is this a completely different thing and he's kind of learned from it?
No, I think I don't think there's anything to be concerned about, at the end of the day, because when you look at Calgary, you can say, they just struggled, period, and, unfortunately, the motto is coaches win you games and players lose you games, but I kind of think it's the other way around, right? The players are the ones that got to make plays, and I felt like Calgary just couldn't get going until the very end, right? So it'd be one thing if it was just offensively that they were struggling, but, they weren't great on defense, they weren't great on special teams, so I think just collectively, they just had a down year. That's one thing. The other thing too is, regardless of Mark being the OC in Calgary, you got to look at Calgary and the way they run. The head coach, essentially, regardless of what anybody says, is, if he's offensive minded, is going to be your offensive coordinator. Dickinson was a former play caller there, and then you look at the GM and I guess he's part GM there, but then also you look at Huff, right? Who, they're all offensive guys, and it all comes from that lineage. But I think what Mark will be able to do now is, come in and kind of put his own stamp on the play calling and the offensive schematics and the way he wants to run things. Especially having a head coach that's defensive minded, will kind of leave him alone and let him do his thing, and then he'll be able to positive experience.
From the other end of that, is that why we can expect Corey Mace to be the defensive coordinator as well?
Absolutely. Like you said, they're going to be specialized one way or another. I think Dickey, Bob Dice are kind of two of the exceptions in being special team coordinators. But you'll be able to see Corey do what he does, not only from a head coach standpoint, but as a defensive play caller, and that is the role that he just had and he's had for the last few years. So that should be quite natural to him. It's going to be quite easy.
You've talked about the looking forward to working with Trevor Harris. There was some concern that Trevor Harris was just going to be too expensive for this team, and they would look elsewhere for a starting quarterback. But they really seem to like Trevor Harris. Would he be your starting quarterback? Do you think they'll enter the year with Trevor Harris?
Yeah, I think absolutely. If you're going to spend money anywhere, it's got to be the guy who touches the ball every play. Right? There isn't a more important position in sports, in my opinion. Right? There isn't really one team sport where that is so heavily relied upon, like that quarterback position in the game.
Especially in the CFL.
Especially in the CFL. You look at baseball. Sure, you could say pitchers, and pitchers are they're brief stints, they pitch their 6, 7, whatever innings, and then there's somebody else, right? Like it doesn't work that way here. So they're going to spend the money. He's the guy who's experienced, who's won Grey Cups, who's been in the league a really long time, and who actually played quite well until he got hurt last year. So unless there was somebody screaming that was much, much better, why not spend the money on him?
Who would be your backup? Couple free agents there. Mason Fine, Dola Gall's a free agent. There's been some talk about the Riders going after Drew Brown.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I guess it just depends on what they feel in terms of assessment and evaluating in the two quarterbacks that we had last year. I mean, you look at Mason. I think Mason, had some promise earlier on, but you look at Jake and you say, okay, well, Jake was able to put some wins together, although it didn't end well for us. But I mean, you beat BC, you beat Winnipeg, two of the top teams back to back in the conference. So he did show that he has the ability to get the job done when needed. But it is for sure, it's a two quarterback league. So it's been probably the last 10 plus years where, your starting quarterback is eventually going to get hurt. It sounds horrible, but that's just what normally happens. So you really do need a strong backup quarterback, a guy that, that's essentially almost a bona fide starter. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what direction they go.
Sounds like you'd be leaning towards Jake.
I think so. I think, like I said, because Jake has had the ability to win football games, and he's proved it. I know with Mason, I think Mason had started 3 or 4 maybe last year before, we just didn't see enough out of him. And, Jake went in there and had a couple of games where he was quite good. So he would probably be the pick for me out of the two. But yet again, you don't know what else is available. With Brown in Winnipeg, that'll be an interesting one too, to see kind of where he's at. And then maybe you get some guys, that aren't around right now, the Chris Trevler situation. I know he's still waiting out in the NFL, and I don't think he was signed by anybody. He hasn't been signed by anybody this year. I would imagine Nathan Rourke is probably going to hang in there. I know he just signed with the Pats, so I would imagine he probably has more of a shelf life over there with the NFL right now, as he's just kind of started his transcendent into the league. But you got a guy like Chris Trevler. If he's now going to be going unemployed for a year, maybe that's a situation that I would probably look at potentially.
When we look at the roster's not set yet. Free agency still at least a month and a half away, if not, you call it 2 months actually. But looking down the line, is there an expectation that some of those players from Toronto, that incredible defense that they had there, will follow Corey Mace to Regina?
Yeah, you would think so. Saskatchewan's a very appealing place to play. The city might not be overly appealing in comparison to a place like Toronto, but I mean, you're here to play football. And, when you look at the facility and the stadium and all the things that we have to offer, it's very appealing, number one. And number two, obviously, Corey, being on the defensive side of the ball, would have had a lot to do with in terms of personnel and who was playing and who was not playing, who they ended up signing, in the last year or two in Toronto. So, yeah, it's interesting. You would think that's going to be a big draw for players, that maybe can't come to a deal, or maybe asking for a little bit more money than they want. Yeah.
They have their own free agents to look out for as well. But what are your expectations, Paul? Like I know it's very early. I mean, we're just barely a month removed from the Grey Cup in Hamilton. But when you play in Saskatchewan, there's always going to be expectations. There's always going to be hope that this can turn around right away. Do you think that's a possibility?
I think so. I mean, the community of fans, I think, have yearned for more of a winning season now than they ever have. Coming off 2 back-to-back seasons where not only do you not make the postseason, but you go 0-9 on the back end. They always say, Labor Day is when the season starts. And so for the team, this year to go 0-9, from Labor Day on, and to do the same thing the year before, after, having the opportunity to host the Grey Cup, I just think now needs to be the time. And, we expect, on my end, the expectation, listening to Corey, talk about, and they really feel like they have the pieces to put it all together in terms of players and talent. You hope he brings his, championship experience, and I'd expect him to be playing at the end. It's all said and done.
We're asking everybody, Paul, what's your plans for Christmas and favorite Christmas gift as a child?
That's a good question. I'll be sticking around home. I'll be sticking around home, going over to my brother's one time, and then we'll be going out to the cabin with my in-laws. So that's all we'll be doing for Christmas, but we'll be staying here in Sask. Favorite gift as a child? You know what? My twin brother and I got some remote control cars when we were, let's say, about 12 years old. some fancy dancy ones that we never thought we were ever going to get. And those things I just remember ripping around with those things. They were having all time enjoyable for sure. So that's got to be my favorite.
Those are still popular. Like they're still
yeah.
Those are still very popular gifts. So
yeah.
Paul, thank you very much, and Merry Christmas, and have a great New Year. We hope to talk to you in the New Year.
It's such a pleasure, Kurt. Thanks for having me. It's always fun with you guys, and I can't wait to do it again in the New Year.
Yeah, and our thank you to Paul Waldo for everything that he's done for us this year. And as we look ahead to the new year, there's that area between Christmas and New Year's when the Canadian Brewhouse offers the great re-gift. And that is any gift cards that you get that you don't want, you can bring them down here and exchange them for Canadian Brewhouse gift cards. It's Talk About Tuesday tonight, though. If you're looking for a place to watch the Oilers at any time, the Canadian Brewhouse is the best place. Oilers have 2 more games in New York before they come home for the Christmas break, so this would be a great time to come down to the Canadian Brewhouse over the next few days and catch the Oilers. Tomahawk Steak Night's coming up. Look that up. That's a great night. And also free wings for a year on New Year's Eve here at the Canadian Brewhouse. Bucky said he was going to the bathroom and hasn't come back, and he left about 10 minutes ago. So I think what he's done, Paul, is he stuck us with the bill. I think that's what Bucky has done. Why do you need to take his coat to the bathroom? I asked him that and he wouldn't answer. We're going to see you tomorrow. We'll be with you tomorrow, 11 a.m. Mayor Gerald Albers is going to join us for an end of the year chat. Take care.